Welcome to Delivering Miracles, a podcast to teach women like you tips and strategies on how you can have a safer pregnancy so you can bring home a healthy baby. I'm your host and your high-risk pregnancy expert, Parijat. I can't wait to chat with you. When I started my business to help women with high-risk pregnancies stay pregnant as long as possible, I never expected to hear this one thing that I hear at least a dozen times a week. And that is, I wish I'd found you sooner. I wish I'd found you back when I was going through this. I wish I'd known you back then. I can't tell you how many times I hear that from women who have completed their high-risk pregnancy and find me somehow and write into me and tell me, I wish I'd found you sooner. I wish I'd known you when I was going through this. Which made me really interested in learning about how I can reach more women earlier in their experience, because the whole point of this is to reach people as soon as possible, right? So you know all the things that you can do to help yourself stay pregnant and to help yourself have a healthy pregnancy so you can have a healthy postpartum period also, right? And of course, in all of that is a healthy baby, of course, right? And so I've been talking to a lot of women who've been through a high-risk pregnancy and who are on the other side of it, who have told me, I wish I'd found you sooner. And I wanted to know more about, well, what kept you from reaching out? You know, some of them obviously went through this well before my business was created, well before even I went through it myself, so it didn't exist. But many of them have delivered in the last, or have been through this in the last year and a half. And I asked them, what kept you from doing it? What kept you from reaching out? And you know what I hear, and what I heard most often, which again came as a really big surprise to me, is I didn't think it was that bad, or I didn't think that it should be that bad. I felt like I should be able to do this on my own. I felt like I should be able to handle this. And when I dig a little deeper, and I think even about my own experience of going through a high-risk pregnancy, what really hits me is all of the messages that you are being surrounded with about how you should be dealing with this. And it comes in the most innocuous of forms, right? It's from people who care so much about you, who love you, who want the best for you, who are probably really scared for you, but they have no idea what to say because they just want to fix it and they don't know how. And so you start being surrounded by all these messages of things like, it could be worse. It's really not that big a deal. Just enjoy yourself, relax, enjoy bed rest, cheer up, be positive. This is in the plans, everything will work out. And even if you don't believe those sentiments, even if you hear them, you go, oh God, here we go again. Somebody's saying this again. Even if you don't believe them, they still sit there. They sit in the back of your head, sometimes in the middle of your head, sometimes right in the forefront of your mind. They're right there. And you take it in, whether you want to or not, you take it in. And the more often you hear it, and the more often that you say it to yourself, the more often that you think it, it does sink in. And you start subconsciously creating these boundaries or these barriers outside of which you won't let yourself feel anything. And when you do that, and we all do it, it's not just you, we all do it. But when you do that, you create a very small experience of your high-risk pregnancy, or if you're going through fertility treatment, or if your baby's in the NICU, you shrink your world. And again, we all do it, right? Is we create these boundaries within which we say, okay, I'm supposed to feel something within this boundary, within this limit. And what happens there is when you do that, you prevent yourself from really truly owning and really truly being present in your experience. Now, sometimes that's a good thing because what's going on is so hard or so scary or so difficult that you don't want to feel it all, right? And once in a while, that's okay. It's a good thing to be able to turn it off and to be able to walk away, but not always. For it to be a habit, that sits with you, that creates stress in your body. That prevents you from truly feeling all of the emotions at the same time. And so when I think about it, and I think about what this experience is like personally to go through this, we like to minimize it. We minimize it all the time. And I bet you're doing it every single day too. Telling yourself it's not that bad, telling yourself it's not a big deal, telling yourself it could be worse, telling yourself to just think about positive things. And you're stealing from yourself when you do that. Because you're not allowing yourself to really own what's actually happening. And if you don't do it, who else is going to? It's your experience, right? It's on nobody else. And nobody else is going to, and nobody else can. It's on you to really take it and make it really what it is. It's like, when you have a cold and you try to eat something, especially it's something that you like, and you just can't taste it because your nose is all stuffed up. That's what's happening to your experience of this. Because now there's this boundary around it saying, I can only feel within these limits. It can only be so bad. It can only be so difficult. Well, I'm here to tell you today, going through a high-risk pregnancy, having complications, having a baby in the NICU, going through fertility treatment, if it feels hard to you, it's okay because it really is this hard. And I know that's not some hugely profound thing maybe that you were expecting from me, or maybe this is exactly hitting home for you. But I've heard this conversation, I've had this conversation so many times, and I'll tell you, I doubted myself even going through it all for all the years, all the months that we were going through it. I remember there was a moment once my son was home, and it was very early when he was home. So probably within the first 2-3 months of when he was home, which means it was about 5 or 6 months after he was born because he was in the NICU for so long. And I remember just looking at all these other women who also went through really difficult things, had a difficult pregnancy or had a baby in the NICU for a few weeks or a couple months, or had a baby that was super colicky, or had twins and was never sleeping. And I kept thinking to myself, geez, why the hell does this feel so hard? And I kept trying to look for answers everywhere. Well, maybe it's because I'm not eating well enough. Maybe it's because I'm not sleeping well, which I totally wasn't, right? Maybe it's because I'm trying to pump and I'm constantly hooked up to a machine, and so maybe I need to hydrate more. Maybe it's because I'm stressed out, which I was. And I would go through all of these different scenarios. What is it? What is that? What's the answer to this? Why does this feel so hard to me? Why is it so much harder for me than other people? And you know what the answer really ended up being? The answer is it really is this hard. It doesn't say anything about you. This has nothing to do with you or your abilities to get through a difficult time or your strengths or your weaknesses or your past experiences or your body. None of it. None of it. The reality is what you're going through right now really is this hard. And I feel like we don't say that enough. There's so much talk. I mean, Hallmark makes billions of dollars for this, right? Buck up, cheer up, keep your head above the water. You can do it. And it's great, right? Motivation is super important. Having hope is super important. I'm not saying get rid of all of that and just focus on everything that's going terribly. I'm saying we need to have some more balance. We need to have this conversation that says, hey, you know what? This freaking sucks. And there's no quick fix. There's no good solution. There's no great way to make this better. And you know, I'm all for taking action, right? That's the whole point of my business. My whole point, my programs that I have, the one for pregnancy and the postpartum one, is all about take action, make your life better, and just do it and start living your life the way that you want, right? For the pregnancy program, it's all about take the action so you can quickly turn your pregnancy around and have a healthier pregnancy so you can stay pregnant as long as possible. The postpartum one is all about take action really quickly so you can let go of all the difficulties that you've been through or all the trauma that you're holding on to so you can enjoy your life as a mom, guilt-free. And so for all the action that I promote and I teach and that I've taken and that I encourage my clients to take, who then take it on their own, sometimes, a lot of times, in the midst of all that action, we need to be having this conversation. It needs to be okay for you to sit back some days and say, you know what? It is really this hard. Does that mean you stop taking action or stop making your pregnancy better or stop improving your fertility or stop making your health better so you can be healthier postpartum? No, of course not. This is not an either or thing, and that's my whole point. You can still be taking action. You can still be making changes in your life to be healthier, to be calmer, to have more joy, to, have a healthier pregnancy, whatever that is. And still have room to recognize and to really own and accept that what you're going through really is this hard. It's freaking hard. I mean, think about it. How many people do you know who are talking about what you're going through openly? I know when I was going through it, there was hardly anybody. And the worst part is, years later, it hasn't been that many years, but it's been years, right? It wasn't like yesterday. There are still so many women saying the same thing. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about miscarriage. Nobody's talking about their experience with fertility treatment. Nobody's talking about their experience with failed cycles. Nobody's talking about their experience of having pregnancy complications. Nobody's talking about their experience of being on bed rest. Nobody's talking about what it's like to have a baby in the NICU. It's like you go from one bubble to the next. And sometimes you meet people along the way who've been through it and they get it, and that's great. You find this camaraderie between them and you have this new friend that you can have for life, or sometimes for at least a little while, if not for life. And that's great. But we're still stuck in this bubble because of those boundaries we're putting on our feelings. And we're doing it unconsciously. It's because we hear and we take in all of these messages, and at some point they start to feel real for us. And then we start to internalize them, and we create this boundary for ourselves to say, okay, well, I've got to be more positive. I've got to really focus on what's going well here. I've got to try a little harder. I've got to have more hope. And it goes back to this really minimizing point of being. where it becomes about, let me try to make this better. Which again is great. Having the energy and the drive to try to improve your situation is so important. But how can you do that effectively when you don't really even know and acknowledge how bad it is right now? You see where I'm going with that? I watched Inside Out a while back. The Pixar movie Inside Out with the little people type things that were supposed to be in a little girl's head, her emotions. And then just recently, I was reading that story to my son. He's a little too young to watch the movie yet. I'm really, really excited to show him that movie because, oh my gosh, what a lesson in emotional intelligence. Holy cow. The therapist in me was thrilled. Actually, one of the psychologists who worked on that film was one of my advisors in undergrad. He was one of my favorite professors of all time. So I kind of feel like I have a little claim to fame because I have that connection. But I was reading that story, and it was a very condensed version of the movie because it was a kid's story. And they summed it up absolutely beautifully. The whole point of the movie, of Inside Out, and the story that they tell, which is you cannot experience joy without sadness. You can't do it. And so trying to minimize it, trying to block it out, trying to get yourself to just be more positive and cheer up, it doesn't always work. Because sometimes, a lot more often than you realize, what your body, what your mind needs is for you to step back and say, this is freaking hard. I don't like it. I don't want this. I hate that we're going through this. Now, does that mean you have to have a huge cry fest all the time? No, not at all. You know, for some of you, there may not even be tears involved. But what it does mean is you've got to break out of that barrier that you've created for yourself. You've got to step out of that bubble that you're trying to stay in for so long and let yourself understand and really accept, you know what? I don't care what everybody else thinks. I don't care what everybody else says. I know I should be positive right now, but screw it. Right now, this freaking sucks. And it's totally okay to say that because it really does suck. It really is this hard. And I think for as long as we avoid saying that and having this conversation, it keeps women like you and me feeling completely alone. Because then you have one of those days where it just feels like your world is crumbling around you. Maybe you got some bad news from your doctor, or maybe you got you're waiting on some test results and things are just feeling really hard, or your doctor brought up something that you didn't even think was an issue for your pregnancy. Now all of a sudden it's a potential issue. Or you're just kind of hitting a wall because you've been doing this for so long and there's just no return on all the effort that you're putting in, right? Whatever that is, you're having one of those days where you're just done. And you're sitting there and you're exhausted and you are burned out, you're frustrated, you're overwhelmed, you're freaking out. Whatever that is that's going on for you, if we don't have this conversation in those moments, you're going to feel like you're the only one that's going through it. And you're going to start wondering, what the hell is wrong with me that I can't get through this? And that's why I'm talking to you about this today, because I want you to hear it loud and clear. There is nothing wrong with you. And I don't just say that to be Pollyanna about it. I don't say that just to give you some more words to think about. There literally is nothing wrong with you, because for the healthiest of healthiest people who go through a high-risk pregnancy or fertility treatment or have a baby in the NICU or are parenting an extra needs child or any combination of any of those things. It really is this hard. And there's nothing wrong with you for feeling that way. It really is this hard. I've been there. I know. I've started with the fertility treatment, gone through so many cycles, having your hope crushed. I've been through the high-risk pregnancy and gotten and heard those words that you never want your doctor to say about your health and about your future baby that you just so desperately want to bring home. I've been in the NICU watching a child, my child, hooked up to monitors and wires and tubes, praying and hoping that something is going to keep him alive long enough to come home. And I've been, and I still am, the mom who is trying everything to help my child live a happy, healthy life, no matter what challenges he has right now. I've been there, and I can tell you that there are so many different ways to get through it. There are so many different strategies I can tell you. There's so many different things that are personalized to your particular situation that will help you. But none of it matters if you can't look it in the eye and say, yes, this is really hard. Just like you can't have joy without sadness. You can't really fix a problem or improve a situation until you see what it really is. And I'm not saying I want you to dwell on it and think about it all the time and really ruminate on, oh my God, this sucks, and just say that over and over. Of course not. That's also counterproductive. But we don't talk about this enough. How hard it really, really is. Because it is damn hard. Those days when you feel like you don't know how much longer you can do this, it says nothing about you. It says nothing about your endurance or your desire to have children or how good of a parent you're going to be. It really is this hard. And you've got to give yourself permission to say that and to feel it and to give yourself the compassion to accept that. It has nothing to do with you. Nothing at all. And the more that we talk about this, the more that we really acknowledge what is going on, what this is about, and the fact that we all feel it. We all feel it. We all go through this. We all have moments, each and every one of us, where we feel like I am a loser. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I can't get through this. I don't understand. Everybody else seems to be doing this so much better than me. That's just because they're on a different part of the journey than you. They're having a different day than you. But each and every one of us hits a point multiple times through this journey, through this process, where we go, holy crap, this is freaking hard. And so you fall down. Let yourself fall down. Take the weight off of your feet for a second. Let yourself fall down. Let yourself really feel it, because it really is this hard. It says nothing about you. It is just the nature of the situation. It really is this hard. Fall down and feel it. Breathe it in, and then you can get back up and keep going. You are not alone in this. You are absolutely not alone in feeling like this might be too hard for you. I know you've got the strength in you to do this, but there are days when I know you're doubting it. You're not alone in that. It says nothing about you. It says nothing about your future. It says nothing about your abilities to be an amazing mother. It really is this hard. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I know it was a little bit of a different episode, but I just felt so inspired that I wanted to share this with you and have this message in your ears for as many times as you need to hear it, because it's just a message so many more moms need to hear it, and we just don't talk about it enough. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for receiving this message. And if you enjoyed today's episode, I would love it if you can head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so more and more women who are struggling through a high-risk pregnancy or infertility or have a baby in the NICU or are parenting a child with extra needs, more and more women can tune into Delivering Miracles for inspiration and tips and motivation and conversations like this on how to get through all of this. And if you're going through a high-risk pregnancy right now, if you have complications, if you're on bed rest, and if you're just sick of all the ups and downs and you're totally ready to get back in control so you can help yourself stay pregnant as long as possible, so you can give your baby a strong start to life, then I'd love to talk to you. So schedule a complimentary consultation on my website so we can talk about exactly what you need to do to help yourself have a healthier high-risk pregnancy, no matter what complications you're facing. You can schedule that free call by visiting my website at parijatdeshpande.com. And I would love to stay in touch. So follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Parijat Desh. That's Parijatdesh. It's a hard, long, lonely road. Going through a high-risk pregnancy, going through fertility treatment, having a baby in the NICU, facing these challenges that a lot of people don't understand. It's hard. It is as hard as it feels. And I want you to release the blame that you're putting on yourself, release those barriers that you've created around yourself, and really allow yourself to accept that. Because that is the true, real, deep way that you're going to be able to take steps forward and make your situation as best as you possibly can. You are strong, you are brave, and going through something like this never changes that. Take it one day, one step at a time. You can do this.